So, we've been comic fans for a very long time.
See?
So, I'm thinking, in this episode, let's talk about that very first time that you felt validated as a comic fan.
Ooh.
Stick around. Hi, welcome to My Side Laundry Room. My name's Rob,
And I'm Chris.
and we have been comic fans 30 plus years. I've had a comic in my hand ever since I've been an infant for the most part, due to family members. But there's that one time in any fan's life, where you become validated that you're a fan of something. Either it be a movie that came out, or a cartoon, a TV special, where everybody sees it. Now, I'll start. The first time I felt like, wow, the whole world is seeing something that I love was, and I can't remember the date exactly, but it was a Macy's Day Thanksgiving parade. There was a Marvel Universe float. Now, mind you, Spider-Man has had a balloon.
Yeah, he's always had a balloon in here. Yep.
But this was Wolverine, Thor, Spider-Man, Captain America were all in the parade. I'm going to say maybe 88 or 89, because I think it was around the time that the first wave of the toys came out. Like the cat firing Punisher, the suction cup.
The newspaper
Yes.
short card.
Yes.
Newspaper short card.
Which they're reproducing now.
Which are very cool, by the way. But
They
yeah,
are very cool.
So,
But that was the first time I felt like everybody in the world is seeing this, and they're seeing it as the cool thing that I see. I remember, a couple friends I had in whatever school I was in at the time, elementary, middle, we were all calling each other up. Oh my God, you see this?
Yeah, did you
because
see it? Did you see it?
everybody
Did you see
watched
it?
the
Yeah.
Macy's Day Parade. But to me, that was the first time I felt like this comic book thing, it's going places.
Yeah. It's not just mine anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Wow. So for me, it's beyond a shadow. Well, I actually probably had two.
Okay.
Two specific times.
Hit us
But
up with them.
one in particular is I remember. So there used to be this little dive breakfast joint, okay? And my mom and dad and I would go to it, and it had a magazine kiosk, not a comic rack, but a magazine kiosk, one of the old laminate wood,
We had family
tiers.
circle or
Yeah, you know
whatever.
what I mean. But it had the Better Homes and Gardens or whatever
Yeah.
else. Okay. Well, I remember I would always go and look at that magazine rack while we were waiting on breakfast, because I was a kid. I had about this long of an attention span. So I can remember grabbing it like it was a holy grail, and it was a Starlog. But it wasn't just any Starlog. It was the first picture I had ever seen of Michael Keaton in Batman's outfit. Behind him was the Batmobile.
Yeah.
And of course, in it was like 5 or 6 pictures of... Now, this is a different time. So you knew the casting, you knew, and we talked about it in the comic shop that I actually was my first job. I worked at a comic shop when I was like freaking 9. I bag and boarded books, okay? But we had talked about it, but nobody'd seen anything. There's no internet. There's no drone flyover. There's no, there's none of the crap that we have now. You know what I mean? But we had talked about Jack Nicholson getting it, and it was like, man, you think this thing's going to get made? Because you remember those days. You never knew if it was
the
actually...
back of the comic scene was literally like 3, 4, 5 pages deep of just these little bullet points of Black Panther movie, Wesley Snipes set to star,
Tom Cruise is going to play Tony Stark in an Iron Man film. That kind of shit. That's what we used to get. You know what I mean? So this was like a validation that right? Now you also have to understand, I was not I had read Batman comics, so I wasn't a fan of, which I've made this abundantly clear, I wasn't a fan of the Adam West Batman shows. I wasn't. I was not a fan. I did not watch those religiously as a kid. As a matter of fact, I always thought they degraded the character. But that's an argument for another day. I read Batman. I love Batman. I love Batman the way Batman was supposed to be.
Yeah.
This looked like the Batman that I read. So
Fair,
the validation of like basically telling my parents and the world like, yeah, I told you this isn't stupid Zap Pal Boom Holy Rusted Metal Batman whatever.
Right.
This is Batman. You know what I mean? So that was probably the biggest validation for me. I can remember like basically, and then when it was a hit, that was even better.
Yeah. And we talked about that on our T-shirt episode. Because after that, even before the movie came out, there was this boom
of Batman stuff.
And I'm talking like
figures.
Well,
chucks.
the old school designs.
Yes.
And I mean like the early 80s designs of Batman and Joker.
What was the first time you could buy a Batman insignia T-shirt in Macy's, J.C. Penney's? You know, it wasn't like when we were kids. If you wanted a comic themed shirt, you had to go to a specialty shop.
Yes.
And you had to pay 3 prices for it. You know what I mean? It was just, that's the way it was. It was every T-shirt was $25 or whatever it was.
Yes.
So that was like an eye-opening experience in and of itself. Was this, okay, I'm walking into J.C. Penney's and there's a Batman, like a Batman, you know, shorts, socks, T-shirts, shoes, you know, which I had. I had a pair of the Chuck Converse Batman.
Tell me you wouldn't want those right now.
I'd give my left nut for them, but I mean, you know, and I bought a few of the pairs of Chucks that are now out with the DC characters because it's just, you know, that little hint of nostalgia. I bought the Vans Marvel ones. I got the Wolverine Vans. I mean,
that's awesome.
Well, it is, but I mean,
it's like I wanted the Transformer basketball sneakers, but they're like $250.
Or the Star Wars, what was it, Convert or Reeboks or whatever it was. They were like $300 or whatever. That was a major validation. That was like the whole world knew finally what I had known. At least that's how I felt. Yeah. You know what I mean? That was a big deal for me, a huge big deal.
Well, what was the second one that you were going to mention?
Well, so my dad is a horse trader. And what I mean by a horse trader is he will buy, sell, swap anything. The only reason he never sold me and Mom is I think he kind of likes us.
And he likes your mom's cooking.
Yeah, pretty much. But you know, I mean, he has no emotional attachment to anything. But he's just that person. He just always is making a deal or whatever. So when I started buying comics, I started reading them and whatever, I would tell him like, yeah, this comic's worth this and this comic's worth. My dad never. I mean, who's going to pay that for a comic? You know what I mean, that kind of thing. So I remember one of the shows, I used to do these little local shows with the comic shop that I worked at. And when I say I used to work it, I mean I could barely carry a long box, but I did my best because I was portly and I weighed as much
Husky power.
Husky power. So I remember taking a stack of books because I can tell you, leads into the Chucks conversation. I got 1 pair of shoes a year for school.
Yeah.
You know, that was it.
I had a play pair and
a dress pair, right? Okay, and or dress pair and play pair. Exactly, what play and school were the same. But anyway, I wanted these Batman shoes, and they were like $50, $60, whatever it was, because they were Batman. And there was a Joker pair too, but they didn't look as cool, in my opinion. But anyway, I remember selling the comics because that was the only way I knew how to make money. Was these books that I had, which was fucking stupid, but because I ended up buying those books later for 3 times what I sold them for, but that's neither here nor there. But
we've all been there, I think.
But I remember taking a stack of books, and I remember my dad's like, "What are you doing with those?" I was like, "I want those shoes." You sell comics to get? Yeah, I'm going to sell comics and shoes. Well, like, I made $70 selling these books. Huh. You know what I mean? I covered my shoes or whatever, and I hustled. I went around the entire room as whatever I was, 10 years old, 11 years old, and I'm like, well, that guy over there is willing to give me 15 for this book. Will you give me 16 or whatever? I mean, that's what I did, and I got it honest from him. I learned it by watching him. So I sold these books, and I bought these shoes. But anyway, I remember getting back in the car, and Dad's like, "Did you sell the books?" Like, all, you know, sure you did, you know, that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, I sold them. and I made my money from my shoes. And that was after that. Honestly, after that, my dad really kind of was like, there was more of an interest. Not he didn't care, but there was definitely more of an interest that there actually was a value to these. He just thought it was a bunch of nerds getting together every month,
Right.
and
That's a great personal validation.
But that was
Yeah.
yes, to my father was a great personal validation because he's, so. But yeah, comics, man, it has made the biggest mark on my life. I mean, the fact that we sit here and we talk, about what we talk about, all goes back to comics.
Yeah. And I have to say, I haven't bought a comic in God knows how long, but it runs in my soul, runs in every vein in my body.
I find myself buying collecteds.
Yes.
And I find myself, or I read a blog and somebody's like, oh man, this is a great story, you should have read it, whatever. The only comic I buy that comes out no matter sight unseen is anything Dan Brereton did, which we've,
Yes.
screamed his praises here before, but
Definitely.
I mean, there's really not much else than that. Occasionally I see a cover that moves me. If I'm just walking into whatever store and, oh my God, there's a cool Thanos or whatever. I mean, whatever, some character that I like, and I might pick it up. But by and large, to go to a store every week and buy comics, I do not do that anymore because by and large, I'm just kind of fatigued.
Yeah, I got to a point in my life where you kind of are like, what do you do with all these?
It's not just that.
That's just where I kind of got to a point where it's like I've read it, now it just sits in a box and I don't enjoy it again.
When I started seeing storylines,
yeah,
that I read, and this is all things. I mean, you can make the same argument for movies and
wrestling,
wrestling and everything else. And I understand it, and everybody's going to say, well, it's, but that's kind of what happened. I mean, I started reading the same. At least that's what I felt like. Literally with X-Men, and I know you know what I'm going to talk about. You would read X-Men, and every year it was the same crescendo. Okay, so. Right at the beginning of summer, there would be some massive issue, whatever it was, okay? Inferno, Fall of the Mutants, pick one, whatever, doesn't matter. And then it would, you would get through the summer into September, October, and then you'd have this inevitable downtime year where the X-Men are hanging out at the pool, or they're going Christmas shopping, or whatever they were doing, okay? Yeah. And then, guess what? January and February, we're building back up to the crescendo. And it was like this.
But it almost ran like a TV show schedule.
It did. Yeah. It did. But you could almost, but it was almost like, after, and I'm telling you, I read X-Men for 20 years.
Yeah.
And then it was worse than that. You want to talk about an addict. I was still buying them and I wasn't reading them because I couldn't read them. They were terrible,
yeah.
But I kept buying them because that's the collector side of you that you can't shake, unfortunately.
And it's just the pedigree of itself. Well, I love that.
Maybe it'll turn around,
right?
And it. So, but it's nothing. I mean, read comics, man. The only thing it's going to do is lead to literacy. I mean, that's all there is to it. I mean, there's nothing bad about it. It's just we've read for a lot of years, So when something new and different comes out and I hear about it, I pick it up.
See, but here's the thing: you don't need to say that anymore because that's all kids read anymore. Are comics.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Even most juvenile things have big pictures every couple pages or are written with super duper fonts and things to catch your eye.
Well,
so I mean, it has gone that much of a mainstream.
It's good and bad.
It is.
It's good and bad. I mean, it's comics taught me to read. I'll tell you that with a clear conscience.
Oh yeah, same here.
Yeah.
And the best thing about it, before we leave with something like that, is even if you didn't understand a word, you could see it be played out on the page that you
could figured
out the definition.
Yes. Yep.
And that was, I mean, why I always had a higher reading score growing up, because I was able to put the pieces together to figure out what stuff meant.
What was cool about comics when you started reading, when we were kids, kids, you know what I mean? We started reading comics. It was like this evolutionary step. So you read comics, and the next thing you know, you're in the bookstore.
Yeah. Sci-fi.
The sci-fi section, and you're looking for whatever and back when we were kids, and particularly the sci-fi covers would jump off of I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just this incredible, the Terry Goodkind books, and and then everybody used a Frazetta cover. I'm going to tell you that point blank. Okay, everybody used a Frazetta
Yeah.
cover, and I'll tell you that was so prevalent. I didn't know who it was, but I used to steal the covers. I'm straight up hood. Okay, I mean that. I had no idea who this was, but I knew the cover was so incredible. Whatever it was, a Conan book or whatever. But I would rip the cover of paperback books. I mean, straight up vandalism. It's horrible. Horrible. I'm so sorry, little Professor Book in Eldersburg. I'm so sorry. But I mean,
You're the reason they went out of business.
Probably. I mean, but I remember going there and was like, who is this?
Right.
What is, and you can look at it and see like the 30 covers on the sci-fi and be like, this is the same. It has to be the same guy.
Right.
But that's what I mean. That was what was great about comics, and like I'm glad that some of the comic art form is getting into the regular media, so kids could actually read.
Yeah.
I mean,
Makes it adventuresome for them. It makes it interesting. But anyway, we'll leave it there.
Yep.
So keep being rad.
Stay dorky.
And we'll catch you next time.
Buy a comic.
Buy a couple. Get an addiction.
Yeah.
You didn't hear that from us.
No.
Peace.